I am powerful.
I am powerful.
Louder. I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
Well, hello. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have another treat with me. I have Terry, who is an author and a speaker, and I have a lot of questions for him. Terry, please tell the people about yourself.
Sure. First of all, Julio, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to talking with you today. My name's Terry Tucker. Grew up on the south side of Chicago. I'm the oldest of three boys. You can't tell this from looking at me or from my voice, but I'm 6'8" tall, and actually went to college on a basketball scholarship despite having 3 knee surgeries in high school. After college, I moved home to find a job. Julio, I'm really going to date myself now, but this is long before the internet was available to help people find employment. Fortunately, I found that first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain, in their marketing department.
Yeah, everybody knows who Wendy's is.
Everybody knows Wendy's.
Yeah.
That was the good news. The bad news was I ended up living with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mother care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. After Wendy's, I actually went to work for the hospital that cared for my father and my grandmother. I thought they did such a good job. I wanted to be part of that organization. And then at 37, made a major pivot in my life and became a police officer. And part of what I did during my law enforcement career was I was in the drug unit, and I was also on the SWAT team as a hostage negotiator.
What?
After that,
I have questions. That's exciting. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, after that, I started a school security consulting business. I coached girls high school basketball when we lived in Texas. But for the last 13 years now, I've been battling a rare form of cancer, a rare form of melanoma. And then finally, I guess just my wife and I have been married for almost 32 years. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military, the Space Force.
No, that is amazing. What a story. This is awesome.
I'm just old, so I've done a lot of things. So,
This is amazing. I have so many questions, but I do want to start with 7 feet tall.
Well, close. 6'8". I played basketball against some guys that were 7 feet tall, and believe me, that small amount, those 4 inches, believe me, they make a difference. So
I can't even imagine being that tall. I'm very short. My license says 5'8", but I tippy-toed when they took the picture.
Nothing wrong with that, Got to give yourself an advantage.
Something. So, okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of great things you're talking about. Let's talk about police officer, because I like talking to police officer. How was that career for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. I did it late in life because there's kind of a backstory. My paternal grandfather was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954, and in 1933 was shot in the line of duty with his own gun. It was not a serious injury. It was shot in the ankle. But my dad, who was
Sorry, Terry. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. It's about to shut down. What is going on? Sorry.
That's okay.
The charger came off. Whew. Okay, go ahead. So your grandfather, pick it up.
My grandfather was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. Was shot in the line of duty in 1933. And my dad, who was an infant at the time, always remembered the stories my grandmother told growing up of that knock on the door. Mrs. Tucker, grab your son, come with us.
Yeah.
Your husband's been shot. And so when I expressed an interest in kind of following in my grandfather's footsteps, my dad was absolutely not. You're going to college.
Yeah.
You're going to major in business. You're going to get out, get a great job, get married, have 2.4 kids, and live happily ever after.
He had a plan.
But he did. But that's the life my father wanted me to lead. That's not the life I felt I was supposed to lead. So I had a choice when I graduated from college. I could have said, hey, Dad, I know you're dying, but I'm going to go blaze my own trail and do my own thing. Or out of love and respect for you, I will do what you want me to do. So understanding the backstory, my first 2 jobs were in business because that's what my dad wanted. And I joke, I did what every good son did. I waited until my father passed away and I followed my own dreams. And honestly, Julio, that's one of the things in my life that I'm most proud of, is that I never let my dream die.
Yeah.
I was 37 when I became a cop, pretty old to be doing that line of work, getting into that line of work. but I always knew I was going to do it. It was just a matter of when.
Why do you think you had such a calling for it? Because I speak to a lot of police officers, and I'm always amazed by. I always wanted to be a cop. I love the idea that you're a protector in these streets, and the idea is, but I couldn't make it, right? Once I got there, life told me that's not where to go. But I always thought, why do that? Because it's dangerous. No matter how you put it, you don't know what's gonna happen. What's that calling for you?
I think it was really a service component. I think it was something that our parents modeled for us. I've got two brothers. I'm 6'8", as I mentioned, played basketball in college. I've got a brother who's 6'7", who pitched for the University of Notre Dame. Another brother who's 6'6", who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association.
I'm joining your family. Listen,
my dad was 6'5". And so we used to joke that if you sat behind our family in church growing up, not a prayer chant, you couldn't see anything going on, at the front of the church. But it was that service component. I mean, our life revolved around sports, and my parents were always there to support us. And both of my brothers are in education, high school education. And if you asked me what I did with my life, I would tell you I was a police officer. So really, all three of us were in service-oriented occupations. And I think that just comes from our parents and the model that they displayed on helping other people.
That's amazing. It's amazing that you answered the call. Like you said, I didn't know that the age was like that. It is late to get in that game. But now that you're saying it does make sense. So the fact that you follow that calling is actually really, really cool. So how about talking about your taking care of that family? Now I can see why you went in and made sure you take care of them. They took care of you. Can you talk about that? Because there's a lot of people that go through the caregiving situation.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly never expected when I graduated from college that, my life was really going to be put on hold for 3.5 years while my father and my grandmother died. And as bad as I felt it was for me, it was so much more worse for my mother, because literally in bedrooms side by side of each other, her mother was dying of cancer and her husband was dying of cancer. And she never complained. She never griped. It was always what needs to be done. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to get it done. And I think it was great that the family came together, and coalesced around that. These people need us now. And I'll give you a story, Julio, that I still, to this day, it bothers me, but I understand it. I was drying what little hair my father had left after his chemotherapy. And I remember he stuck out his hand like he wanted to shake my hand. And I was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, okay, I'll shake your hand. I shook his hand. And in the palm of his hand was $100 bill.
Oh.
And I said, what is this? And he's like, well, that's for all you do. I said, Dad, I have my own job. I'm working at I'm in the marketing department at Wendy's. I have my own job. I don't need your money. And I said, and you're making me feel like a prostitute. I did. That's exactly what I said to him. And I put the $100 bill back in his pajama pocket. I said, don't ever do that to me again. You and Mom did so much for my brothers and I growing up. This isn't payback, but this is what we are supposed to do. And if it takes 30 years, I'll be here for 30 years for you. You don't have to worry about me abandoning you.
That is amazing. It's actually amazing that, look, even going through that, he felt he had to pace. It shows you the scruples and what you're talking about, how you're raised, like doing that right thing. And it's I'm telling you, it's very commendable when people put their lives on hold like that for their parents. It's something that you would think should always be done, but it's easier to say what should be done than sitting there. Like you said, you put everything on hold. So you have any action stories as a police officer you can share? I know there's not always action, right? That's what we think as the public, but.
Every cop I think has their stories and things like that. So I started out as a reserve police officer in Santa Barbara, California, and eventually became a full-time sworn officer in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'll give you one story, and I think about this today. I still think about this kid. You have your job. It's the end of the day. You're kind of winded down. You're ready to quit and things like that. Well, my partner and I were riding in to get our property signed off by the bosses and our reports signed off and that. But they won't hold violent runs. And we worked 11 at night till 7 in the morning. So this was about 6:30. We were riding in. And usually they'll hold, noise runs and stuff like that until 7 o'clock, till the day shift.
Wait, what's the noise run? What's that? What is the noise run?
Dogs barking.
Got it.
Or having a loud party or, it's the neighbors are calling because there's too much noise.
Got it.
And so they'll hold those. Those are not violent. Well, this was a domestic violence call. So they turned us around and said, hey, you got to go to this call. So we get there, and this 14-year-old kid comes banging out of the house, and comes up to us. My parents domestically violated me. Okay. All right, kid. You talk to my partner. I'm going to talk to mom and dad. So I'm talking to mom and dad. And here's mom and dad's story. Mom says, I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I checked on my 3 kids, and my 14-year-old had snuck out, and he was out. She said, he's done this before, so I didn't call the police. I didn't do anything. I went back to bed, got up this morning to get the kids ready for school, and he's back in his bed. I took my cloth slipper and I hit him on the butt 3 times. So she said, that's the story. And so my partner's talking to him. So we exchange, and I'm talking to him. He goes, well, my mom hit me on the butt with her slipper.
I wouldn't even tell anybody that.
Exactly. I'm like, if that would have been my mother, I always say there were only 2 ways to die when I was a kid. One was natural causes. The other was talking back to your parents.
That's right.
I mean, that was the only way to die. But I said, you understand why your mother did that. Anyway, he gets all upset and he goes huffing off down the street, and mom and dad are, get back here. And I'm like, just let him go. Let him cool off. And he comes back about 10 minutes later. We're literally standing in the front yard giving mom and dad some literature about how there are organizations that can help them. The kid goes inside the house. His brother comes out, sits down on the front step. The 14-year-old who initially made the call comes out on the front porch holding an AK-47.
What?
And I'm the first to see it. So out of the corner of my eye, I see it. I look, I yell gun. We throw the parents down on the ground, pull out our guns. There's nowhere to go. We're in the middle of the yard. And an AK-47 will slice right through our bulletproof bag. So we're, we're pointing the guns at him like, drop the gun. And he did. And he ended up dropping it and everything worked out. But Julio, we went to court on this kid. And I mean, a good kid. I mean, a good athlete. He was a quarterback on the, middle school football team. He had good grades. I mean, he was setting himself up in life to make things happen. But we said to him, it's like, do you understand how close you came to dying that night? I mean, we could have lit you up right there. You walked out with that AK.
You would have been justified. Yeah.
And I think about him now. That was 20 years ago. I mean, he's probably in his late 30s now, and
so you guys probably actually saved him, because if he did that there in front of 2 police officers, who imagine what he could have done in one of those episodes. Why do you think, because you dealt with the population a lot and some, I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't say weird, but things that make you think like, wow, this is humanity. What do you think is the root cause of these things? I know you can't, but just your opinion.
I think a couple of things, to be honest with you. I think whether it's, white communities, brown communities, black communities, whatever, the degradation, the breakdown of the family has really, when we were in Cincinnati, we had a curfew. There were curfew laws. And so if you were under a certain age, if you were basically a juvenile and you were out, in the middle of the night, we could arrest you and take you home. And I remember one night, it was October, it was a Wednesday night, so it's during school and things like that. We grab up this 13-year-old kid at 3:00 in the morning. It's like, what are you doing? You got school tomorrow. You should be out. So we take him home. And what we realize is his dad's in jail.
Oh.
His mom, and I don't mean to be guttural about this, but his mom's a crackhead. His mom's on dope, doesn't live with the family. He's being raised by a 75-year-old grandmother. And grandma goes to bed at 8:00. So after 8:00, it's free time for him. He can do whatever he wants.
There's nobody to watch him.
Nobody to watch him. No good male role models. So I think the breakdown of the family is one of the big things. I think the other thing that kept people in line was their faith. The churches in the communities and things like that. So faith and family were two things that kept us on the straight and narrow. They kept me on the straight and narrow. I mean, they probably kept you on the straight and narrow as well, And if you don't have those, you just look at some of these kids, and it's like, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, the real world will just eat them up and spit them out.
And then they get into trouble, and they just go into the system, and it's over. So it's something that was in a way not their fault, the start of it at least, because they would have had that family. They would have had somebody would instill the faith. It would have been very different. So now you're an author and speaker. Well, tell me about that. Because
I never expected to be an author. No, absolutely never expected to write a book. There's sort of an old joke that says when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. So God's to write a book. but I think what God has done, and I've seen this in my life, is put enough people in my path that start to make the same suggestion over and over and over again. And that's what happened with the book. And the book is called Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. And it's really a book born out of two conversations I had. One was with a former player that I had coached in high school. I mentioned I coached girls' high school basketball, who'd moved to the area in Colorado where my wife and I live with her fiance. And the four of us had dinner one night. And I remember saying to her after dinner that I was excited that she was living close now and I could watch her find and live her purpose. And Julio, she got real quiet for a while. And then she looked at me and she said, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have absolutely no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Yes. Finding the reason you were put on the face of this earth, and there is a reason, using your unique gifts and talents and living that reason. So that was one conversation. And then I had a young man reach out to me on social media from college, and he said, what do you think are the most important things I should learn, not to just be successful in my job or in business, but to be successful in life? And Julio, I didn't want to give him get up early, work hard. I didn't want to give him the cliches. So I spent some time thinking about it and was taking notes and kind of had these 10 thoughts, these 10 ideas, these 10 principles. And so I sent them to him. And then I stepped back and I was like, well, I got a life story that fits underneath that principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates this principle. So unfortunately, during the COVID pandemic, I had my left leg amputated because of my cancer. And during those 5 months that I was healing, I sat down at the computer every day and I built stories, and they're real stories about real people underneath each of the principles. And that's how sustainable excellence came to be.
Wait, you're like a strong dude. Wait a minute. So you said, as we had, that was a great conversation, and I would like to touch on those things. But your foot was what? It's just the way you said it. You just like it. It's not like it wasn't part of. It wasn't a big part of the. You just kept going.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've had this rare form, this terminal form. I was told in 2012 I'd be dead in 2 years. Well, obviously I'm not dead. It's almost 13 years now, but I did. I had my foot amputated in 2018. I had my leg amputated above the knee in 2020 in the middle of the COVID pandemic, all as a result of the cancer that I had that began in 2012.
So this is happening to you. Humans are amazing. So this is happening to you, but you're still working on trying to empower others and help others. Like what? Why? I know you're not supposed to, but what do you think it is that, I know your parents, but I don't know, there has to be more, because that's what you're going through is huge. It's a life altering, things change. But when you were talking about this right now, it was more important to you to show that finding that you had than think about what you're going through, or stop and talk about that. How can you, what is it that drives you to help more than anything?
Yeah, I think you need to find meaning in your misery. I think whatever happens to us in life, good, bad, indifferent, you need to find meaning in it. I don't think anything's arbitrary. They just happen to happen. There's a lesson we're supposed to learn in this. And I really feel at this point in my life, because there are so many times I should have died. I mean, I ended up in the intensive care unit at one point with a reaction to a medication that gave me a body temperature of 108 degrees. That's usually not compatible with being alive.
No, I don't.
Somehow I survived that. I had my leg amputated. I also found out I had tumors in my lungs. Still have tumors in my lungs that I'm treated for. And so when you can't do what you're good at, I mean, I'd done so many physical things in my life. I was a college athlete. I was on the SWAT team. I was a law enforcement. And now I'm in a wheelchair and I don't have a left leg. And I think when you can't do what you're good at, you do what's important. And in all honesty, Julio, I think my purpose now in life is for God. I have a very strong faith in God, is for God to use my illness, my malignancy, to show people his love, his mercy, his goodness, his compassion, and his care. And that's what I'm supposed to do. When I die, where I die, how I die, way above my pay grade. Don't spend any time worrying about the dying.
Same thing.
Spend more time worrying about the living.
You have an amazing attitude. I love your jokes, the way they just go into the conversation. So do you ever feel it's unfair that all that, because a lot, right, in self-development, you're in the self-development field, that's one of the things people get, in my opinion, people get stuck on for a long time. Like that, when things do happen, they're really happening that are bad to them, but you got to keep going, right? That's kind of what you're doing. How do you ever feel that all these health issues and what's going on with you with the cancer is like unfair? And if so, how do you get out of that every morning?
No, I don't. I mean,
No.
Why shouldn't I get cancer? What makes me any different than my neighbor or you or anybody who's listening to us? Why? What makes me special? I shouldn't get it because what? I went to college because I got a master's degree. I mean, you got a doctorate. What makes us
God,
you can't have it? So I mean, I certainly asked why I got it. I mean, I've had all 88 genes tested that doctors know of or suspect every form of cancer, that cause every form of cancer. And I have absolutely no mutations in any of my genes that would predispose me to any form of cancer.
No way.
Which means, well, why did I get this incredibly rare form of cancer? Nobody's ever been able to answer that. And I don't spend a lot of time worrying about the why. I just know that I have it. So why shouldn't I get it? And I'll tell you two things I've learned, Julio, through this. Number one, I don't think you really know yourself in your life until you've been tested by some form of adversity, whatever that looks like. Doesn't have to be cancer, could be your upbringing, could be, your dad was an alcoholic, whatever it ended up being. And secondly, and this is going to sound kind of weird, cancer's made me a better human being. I have to ask the question, if you could live your life over again without cancer, would you do it? And honestly, Julio, I don't think I would.
No way.
That much of a better human being. Absolutely. I think I'd go through all this again to know that I was the better person on the other side of it.
That mindset is incredible. First of all, accepting it, that's right. You accepted it. Why would not happen to me? This is life. This is it. Right. And then using it the way so is that what people get out of this book? Is that kind of the teachings in there?
Yeah. I mean, it's things, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I put one of the principles in there is something I've done a lot of times in my life, and I'm not proud of it. And the principle is this: most people think with their fears and their insecurities instead of using their minds. And Julio, I've done that in my life. I know I've done that. Wanted to start something and you kind of pull back and you're like, ooh, wait a minute.
Nah.
Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't have enough information. What will people think about me if I fail? That's thinking with our fears and our insecurities. That's not thinking with our minds. And whenever I get the opportunity to speak, especially to young people, I love talking to young people.
Yeah, me too. They're amazing.
They are. They're like sponges,
Yes.
And I always tell them, if there's something in your heart, something in your soul that you believe you're supposed to do, but it scares you, go ahead and do it. Because at the end of your life, the things you're going to regret are not going to be those things you did
At all.
They're going to be those things you didn't do. And by then it's going to be too late to go back and do them.
I love it. Can you talk about another principle? I don't want you to give your whole book away, right? But can you talk about another principle? I gotta get this book. So
I'll send you the PDF copy when we're done.
yeah, it sounds. I definitely want to read this.
So yeah, another principle. I growing up, I mentioned I was a basketball player, and when I was growing up in the 70s, the big college basketball team was UCLA, and their coach was a man by the name of John Wooden, and talk about a guy who really had a good mindset and stuff like that. And I remember listening to an interview with Coach Wooden. And I'm sitting there with a pad and paper, and pencil, and I'm like, all right, come on, coach, give me some good X's and O's, something I can use, when I'm training, when I'm working out. And the reporter asked him, what's the most important thing that you want your players to take away from their experience at UCLA and the basketball program? He said, I want my players to understand the importance of love. And I was like, love? Are you kidding me? Come on, coach. I don't want love. I want something, give me a drill. Give me something I can use. I mean, I was 13 years old. I had the most rock, nothing. But his comment was, UCLA won 7 national championships in a row. 7 years in a row, they were the best college basketball team. But what he said is, I want my players to understand that they need to love themselves. They need to love their teammates. They need to love what they do in their lives. If they walk out of UCLA understanding that, I don't care how many championships we win. That's what I want them to understand. So the last principle in the book is love is the most important word in any language.
I like that. Man, that is really good. And it's the truth, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to, I think when you mentioned as a 13-year-old boy, when you hear love, you think, but that's passion.
Yeah, passion on the TV. That's not the kind of love we're talking about.
That's not, I was waiting for you to tell me how to hit them hard.
That's right. Come on,
But love could also mean the passion, like loving what you do. Like you obviously you love doing this. You love giving information. You love teaching, so yeah, it's really good. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us from the book before we go anywhere else that you want to make sure we know?
I'll give you one other principle, and it's you are the person you're looking to become. What I mean by that is,
you are the person.
You are the person you're looking to become. And I got that from, I knew I wanted to be in police work. I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, but I had all these jobs before that happened. But I still, I still in my heart, in my soul felt I was a policeman. I just wasn't there yet. So, you are, life is going to give you things that's going to prepare you for that purpose, that thing, that why, that mission you're supposed to do in life. And if you can learn those lessons, I was a much better cop because I had some life experience behind me, because I talked to people and things like that. I knew how to talk to people, and that was important. And so you are the person you're looking to become. Even though I was working in hospital administration, I was the police officer I knew I would become someday.
Yeah, that was who you were. Yeah, that's, and we're chasing this other person when we're that's a great principle. Yeah, if you live by that, and if you do everything understanding that you are who you want to become, you start to improve that person, the one that you are. I love it. Purpose. You've mentioned purpose like, I don't know, 10 times while we're talking. That is an important word for you. There's a lot of people that struggle in finding purpose, right? They feel it's not important to identify that. That's my experience with some people. They don't think it's important to identify that. It sounds like some type of magic trick word. Can you talk about purpose, what it means to you, and how to start looking for it or finding it?
Sure. So I think we talk about the word purpose in the singular, like it's one thing that we're supposed to do. And I can't talk to anybody else, but I can talk about myself. I feel that word for me is plural. It's been purposes. When I was younger, I felt my purpose was to be an athlete. That's really what I felt. I ate, drank, and slept basketball. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And then, like I said, 37, I become a police officer. That was my purpose. I knew my purpose was not to be at Wendy's in marketing or in hospital administration. I knew it was to be in law enforcement. And now, in all honesty, as I'm probably coming towards the end of my life, I think my purpose has shifted again to put as much goodness, positivity, motivation, love back into the world as we possibly can. And so I don't think there's necessarily just one thing, but I do think there is something that we're all supposed to do. And if you don't believe me, believe Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning and who was a Holocaust survivor during World War II, was in the Auschwitz concentration camp. And he talks about how people should not live their life in the abstract, that every one of us has a reason, a purpose, a mission that we're supposed to do in life. And so many people never even contemplate what that is. And I think small minds and weak people kill big dreams. And very few people ever think or contemplate what it means to be great at something purposeful in their life. There's a reason you're here. If you figure that out and you live it, at the end of your life, there's a whole lot more peace in your heart when you die.
Yeah, much less regret. I love it. So how do we start looking for it or knowing or identifying it or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll tell you a story. I heard this man by the name of Jeff Wetzler who's on a podcast. And he talked about how we look at our lives. And Julio, I don't know if you've done this, but I know I've done this in my life. You know, we put these arbitrary mileposts out there, but we say, by the time I'm 28, I want to be making $100,000.
Yeah.
You know, and by the time I'm 34, I want to be married and have 2 kids. And if we reach those mileposts and we're not where we think we are, we somehow look at our lives as being a failure. So how do you find your purpose in life? Wetzler talks about it like this. He said, look at your life in terms of decades. So he says, in your 20s, do everything that interests you. Do anything. If it even remotely is something you want to do it. Make mistakes, screw up, do all kinds, learn those lessons in your 20s. And then he says in your 30s, find those 2 or 3 or 4 things that are starting to speak to you and dig into them. And then he says in your 40s, find that one thing. You're more mature. You understand how life works. You're more established. Find that one thing and make it your purpose in life. And then he says in your 50s and your 60s and beyond, you can reap the rewards, the benefits of living your life. And I wish I would have known that when I was younger.
Me too. Yes.
You know, because it's like, oh, I got to this point. Oh, I'm not where I think I should be.
Yeah.
I just made that up. It's just a made up goal. No, do everything in your 20s that you even remotely find interesting. Go to a chamber music concert. I hate chamber music. Okay, but at least you gave it a shot, you know?
Right.
I mean, read books, make mistakes, just do everything so that you can kind of figure out. And the last thing I'll say about this is this. Understand what your unique gifts and talents are.
Big one.
And then use those in jobs that you find, interesting. And I love the story. You know who Sarah Blakely is? You ever heard of Sarah Blakely?
I've heard of her.
Okay, so Sarah Blakely started the women's undergarment company called Spanx. And she's married to a guy by the name of Jesse Itzler. And Itzler, I don't know if he still is, but at one time he was part owner of the Atlanta Hawks in the National Basketball Association. Very, very successful man. And he talks about how his wife started Spanx. He said she had one prototype and $5,000. And she had been a door-to-door, you're going to laugh when you hear this, a door-to-door facsimile, a fax salesperson. We don't even use faxes anymore, you know.
I didn't even know they had that. I didn't know they could go
that you can go door-to-door. It's like, hey, you want to buy my fax? And he said she didn't know anything about marketing. She didn't know anything about HR. She didn't know anything about legal. She didn't know anything about distribution or manufacturing. And the point he was making is if she would have waited until she had knowledge of all those things, he said, I guarantee you somebody else would have come up with that idea and run with it. His point was, wherever you are, just start there. Figure it out as you go along. We all think that when we get to the top of the mountain, that's what life's about. That's when life starts. That's not when life starts. No. Life is the journey to get to the top of the mountain.
I love that. So, man, so she used what she knew of the door-to-door. That was genius.
Yeah.
genius that she did. Look at where it is now. Yeah, I've heard the story now that you tell me it's spanked. Yeah, that was genius. So use what you have to find that purpose, to find what you're here to do. I love it. I love it. So SWAT. Now that I think SWAT, you look like you're from SWAT. Like, I don't know. You can see with the helmet and how was that time for you? Is it as exciting as it looks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So oh man, like that is, and that it's perfect teamwork. You learn how to be a good teamer, because that's where your strength comes in SWAT, having your guys and watching each other's back. Anything you want to tell us from those times? Because again, that takes a different type of human with a different type of mindset to go into those situations. Anything you learned from there that can help someone in their regular lives?
Oh, absolutely. All kinds of things. And I remember when I first started, they gave us a formula, and I'll tell you the formula and then I'll tell you why they gave it to us. And the formula was 7, 38, 55. And this formula has to do with how we as human beings communicate with each other. So 7% of how we communicate a message to another person are the words that we use. And think how many times you've said something or been like, ooh, I wish I would have said that differently, or I wish I would have not said that at all.
All the time.
Yeah. That's only 7% of how that message comes across. 38% is the tone of voice that you use. Are you really excited and you're talking real fast, or are you kind of down and depressed? So your tone of voice is 38% of that message. And then 55%, so more than half of how that message comes across, is your body language and your facial expressions. And the reason they gave us that formula was because if somebody had barricaded themselves in a room with a gun, we were not in the room with them, that wouldn't have been safe, trying to figure that out. So we didn't have the luxury of that 55% of saying something to somebody and kind of seeing them roll their eyes like,
and like seeing what got it.
What an idiot. I can't believe he said that. Something like that. And so we had to get good at figuring things out, certainly based on what people were saying, but also what they weren't saying and how they were saying it. And one of the ways we would do that, and I think this is incredibly important today in society when we're just yelling and screaming at each other, is what we used to call tactical empathy. We would get rid of the word tactical, just talk about empathy. Help me to understand where you're coming from. Because Julio, a lot of times we'd get on scene, we'd have no idea why the person did what they did.
At all.
Help me to understand. Again, the important word is understand. If you were a homicide suspect that just murdered 3 people, I would have been like, oh yeah, I totally agree with you.
I understand.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Wrong.
It's like, but understanding leads to trust, and trust leads me to a point where I can get you out safely. And I'll end with this. The other thing we used to do is we would ask how and what questions. We would stay away from why questions, because why questions sound accusatory. Well, Julio, why'd you decide to wear that shirt today? Oh, wait a minute. Does Terry not like the shirt on? I can get to the same answer by saying, hey, Julio, what made you decide to wear that shirt today?
It's different. Okay, got it.
It lands differently with you than why did you do that? Why is, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I mean, it's, you do something dumb in school, the principal will be like, why did you do that? Oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, immediately.
So how and what questions, and you can use that in your personal life. You can use it with your family. You can use it with your colleagues at work, and and the whole understanding. Help me to understand what's going on here, and then be quiet. Use silence to your advantage. People don't like silence. They'll fill that silence. You'll learn more information.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm a very honest person. You just taught me something. Because I use why a lot, but I don't mean it in, I use it in everything, because I always want to know I'm neurodivergent. So I always need to know like the what, like the why, but asking it that way. Yes, it could come off like, oh man, you just taught me something. So the how and the what. Yeah, thank you. You see, I learned today. That's how I do. I love it. It never occurred to me, but like as you're telling me, yeah, you're giving me the examples. I mean, I feel it every time you say why. Why did you do this? It's like, I'm like, wait, I want to tell you, wait, stop talking to me like that. Yes. Okay. I love it. So how do they get your book? Let's start there.
Yeah. Sustainable Excellence is available anywhere you can get your book online, Apple, iBooks, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, anywhere you can get book online, you can get Sustainable Excellence.
And how about the speaking? How long have you been doing that for?
Well, it's hard for me. I'm doing virtual stuff. I'm kind of confined to the area because I'm in a wheelchair and, don't have a leg. My wife needs to help me, get the wheelchair in the car and all that stuff. So it's much more difficult. But all that's on my website. You can get access to see talks I've done, or if you're interested in booking me for something virtual or something that's in the, kind of the general Colorado area.
What's the type of companies is it like companies, schools? What's your market? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I've talked to, we have a hospital here in Colorado. It's world renowned for spinal cord and head injury people. And I've talked to their group. I've talked to, I was a keynote speaker, which I thought was hilarious. The South Carolina Bankers Association decided to come to Colorado to have their annual convention, which was great because I got to speak at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's South Carolina. You don't have like 1 million resorts you can go to that, and that. And I've talked to salespeople. I've talked to high school basketball teams. So I'm like I said, I'm old and have done enough that I can pretty much talk to just.
Yeah, I believe you could. And your story, just with your story, I mean, it's powerful to see that you're right now going through this stuff because it's a now for you. It's not something like happen. You're right. You're still working with the soul.
As a matter of fact, Monday I go start another round of week of treatment. So yeah, it's still going on.
Okay, so they can go. I found your website. They could go on your website, get your book, and if they want to hire you for speaking. I actually had one question. I just want to make sure we get out there what you do. So it's obvious that you're a real spiritual person, or you have a person of faith, right? That's how you would say it. How would you discuss self-development with somebody and also understand that God has plans? And how do you go in between that?
I know what I believe. And I never try to put that on somebody else. Like, you got to believe this, otherwise you're never going to be, whatever it is in life. You've got to figure, I think we all have our own faith journey, just like we all have our own purpose journey.
That's right.
We find our purpose, we live it. Same with faith. A lot of people don't. I work with a lot of people who believe we came from nothing, we are nothing, and we go to nothing. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't try to change that. I just know what's important in my life. And I'll, like I said, a lot of times I feel it's important to walk the walk in addition to talking the talk.
Of course.
So I'm just going to put myself out there as an example. If you think it's something to emulate, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But like I said, I've learned things along this journey. I don't want people to think that I'm this guy's got all the answers. I don't. I'm still figuring it out. But I have learned some things that I just like to offer to people and say, hey, if this works for you, use it. Incorporate it in your life. If it doesn't, maybe it's a catalyst to get you to start to think what's important in your life that can lead you to finding and living your purpose.
Yeah, I'm definitely a believer for sure. And I see what you're saying. It doesn't mean anybody else has to believe in what. Yeah, that's where we need to be. Everybody needs to be back to being able to be themselves, love what they love, do what they do, and it's okay because it really is. I believe in the higher power, and I believe the gifts that you were talking about. You mentioned find that gift, what you're good at. That's what they give you to find that purpose and do the job that's given. So yeah, I love it. I love what you're doing. I'm like proud of you. I don't know you that well besides this, but I'm proud of you for going through what you're going through. I think you were telling me before we left, so you're going to a round of chemo now. Is that what?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm on a clinical trial drug that I've been on for 4 years now, but yeah, I will be at the hospital all next week. I come home in the afternoon, sleep at home, but then go back every morning for a week.
Wow.
And then I get some time off to heal and recover. And that's when I write and I do podcasts and things like that.
Is this this is your first round or? or you've done this?
Oh God, no. This is an interesting drug. I've been on it for 4 years. It was a study drug. The study ended 2.5 years ago, but it's worked for me. Everybody else who was on it died. But the funny thing about this drug is it does nothing to the cancer. But the way cancer proliferates in your body is it secretes an enzyme or a protein that hides itself from your immune system. And all this drug does is go in and wipe out that protein or that enzyme so that my own immune system, just like if you had a cold or a flu virus, your immune system would say, hey, that doesn't belong here. We need to attack it. Same thing here. Just the cancer just pops up on my immune system's radar, says, no, that's no good. So it's really my own immune system that's been keeping me stable. I still have tumors in my lungs, but they're not growing and they haven't gone anywhere for the last 4 years now.
Man, Terry, I don't know. That's deep stuff, bro. That's deep stuff, like, and there's people going through this, right? So what would you tell someone that is going through this? Because you don't know, you're trying, right? You don't know what's going to happen at all. How do you get through it? Because you're still in such a great mood. You're still thinking about career, right? You're doing speaking. You're still thinking about future at a time where, it's hard to have that hope of that future. So how do you do it? What would you tell people how would you motivate them and get them up?
I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
This is a true story. It happened back in the 1950s at Johns Hopkins University here in the United States. There was a professor there, and hang with me when I start this because people are going to be like, there's a professor that was doing an experiment with rats, and he wanted to see how long the average rat could tread water before it sank and drowned. And the average rat treaded water for about 15 minutes. And then the professor put another group of rats in a tank of water and watched them. And just as they were getting ready to sink and drown, he reached in, grabbed them, pulled them out of that water, dried them off, and let them rest for a while. And then he took the exact same rats and put them back in that exact same tank of water. And the second time around, on average, those rats treaded water for 60 hours.
What?
Now think about that. First time, 15 minutes. It's not like, your marriage is going to go under, your business is going to go under, you're going to flunk a test. You're going to die.
Yeah.
And the second time around, 60 hours, which taught me two things. And you just mentioned one, the importance of hope in our lives. That if we know we're doing the right things, maybe not today, maybe not this month, maybe not even this year, but there's a good chance, nothing's 100%, that at some point down the road, you're going to get to where you want to be. And the second thing it taught me was just how much more our physical bodies can handle than we ever thought they could. Now, don't get me wrong, Julio. I think we all have a breaking point. But that breaking point is so much further down the road than we ever thought. Our brains tell us, oh, this hurts, it's uncomfortable, stop it. And we listen to that. You don't have to listen to your brain. Keep moving forward, keep pushing forward, and it's amazing what you are able to do.
Belief. I like that. You don't have to listen to I love that. But so belief is really that powerful. So what do you believe? What in this situation, like, what do you believe? What is the belief you're keeping? I just want somebody that's going through it to hear it and, you know what I mean, get something from it, because this is powerful.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, and I've had great doctors, but I'll say doctors are like Vegas. They handicap you. I know it's funny, but it's a great analogy.
Though. It's true.
It is. They'll look at you and say, based on your age and your overall level of health and the stage of your cancer, you will live X. But what doctors don't know is that you want to see your daughter graduate from high school. You want to see your daughter graduate from college. You want to walk your daughter down the aisle. You want to play with your grandkids. And having something to live for is incredibly powerful in terms of keeping you going, in terms of keeping you motivated, in terms of when I first started cancer, I remember reading about a woman who had, I can't even tell you, she had cancer all over her body. They were like, just go home and die. And 30 years later, after getting married, after having children, she is still going because she had something to live for. Have something to live for in your life, whatever that is, your grandkids, your kids, your job, your faith, whatever it is, have something to live for. And if you have something to live for, your mind will control your body. And it's amazing how much how much wear and tear you can take and still keep going.
Wear and tear. That's really good advice. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being like vulnerable enough to share that. You know what I mean? In a way, but I think people could learn a lot from you, like a lot, because what you're going through is such a huge thing. And, you know, it's something that you're battling. It's a battle. It's a fight. You don't know if you're going to win, but your mindset is, I'm going to win. There's no question. I'm going to do what I have to do. I have a purpose and you're following it. I want people to hear that and start to understand that. So thank you so much for that. That was amazing.
Well, Julio, thank you. I always think back on the quote from Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II, who said, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Yes.
And, and I love that quote. I think about that all the time. When it hurts, when it's uncomfortable, when I'm crying, when I'm down on myself, just keep going. Just put one foot in front of the other. You don't have to go far, but as long as you're moving forward, something's happening.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing this awesome book and taking the time to get it done. We all know that takes time. And thank you for sharing with the world the hope and that belief is powerful and that we have control over what we can become. I love your message. Ladies and gentlemen, hospitals, y'all need to hire this man and put him on the stage, because he will definitely make a difference in your people's lives. And everybody, please go pick up a copy of his book. I'll put the link to your website and everywhere so they can get it. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for inspiring me today.
Well, Julio, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you so much. Take care, all right?
Repeat after me.